The sound of her heartbeat shouldn't have been so loud. But in the silence of the Coven's marble hall, Leanne heard every beat. Fast, terrified, alive. At the center of the chamber stood Lawson, her Lawson beside Caitlin, the pure-blood vampire in crimson silk. Cordell, the Coven master, raised one pale hand. Lawson of House Tremaine, you have petitioned to dissolve your attachment to the human Leanne Duncan and formalize a blood bond with Caitlin of House Devero, a vampire of pure lineage. Leanne waited for Lawson to refuse, to remember their 3 years together. He bowed his head. I do, Master Cordell. No hesitation. Step forward, Miss Duncan, Cordell commanded. Leanne climbed the dais on trembling legs. You lack the lineage, the immortality, and the substance required to bond with House Tremaine, Cordell announced. Do you have anything to say? Leanne smiled like ice forming. I have nothing to say to any of you. She walked out. In the courtyard, a vampire with ancient amber eyes was waiting. Leaving so soon, Miss Duncan. His voice was dangerous. I'm Kine, and I have a proposition for you. Leanne took his hand. Kine's skin was ancient cold, stone that had never seen sunlight. He led her away from the Coven hall into darkness. An alliance, he said. You help me reclaim what was stolen. I help you prove your worth to every vampire in that hall. What was stolen? Kine's amber eyes glowed. My coven. I founded it in 323 BCE. 2,000 years ago, I created every vampire in that hall. 876 years ago, they exiled me. Leanne's breath caught. There's an old curse, Kine continued. A vampire exiled by his creations will walk alone until he finds one deemed unworthy by those who cast him out. You were rejected tonight. By Coven law, you're now under my protection. He pulled out ancient parchment. If you accept, I claim you. A blood bond that marks you as mine. They'll have to acknowledge us both. What do you get? The right to challenge Cordell, to take back my coven. His smile was sharp, and you get to watch them kneel. If you're here for stories where the rejected rise and the arrogant fall, hit that subscribe button now. Drop a comment, tell me if Leanne should trust this ancient vampire, and smash that like button because this is about to get dangerous. Leanne looked at the parchment, then at Kine. I'm in. Kine's home was a modest stone manor with overgrown gardens. Inside, sparse furniture and walls lined with books in dead languages. Are you hungry? He asked. Leanne blinked. You eat food? No, but I keep supplies for human guests. The casual domesticity made her want to laugh or cry. I need to understand what happens next, she said. Kine turned to face her. The claiming bite creates a blood bond. I take enough blood to mark you with my scent. Every vampire you encounter will smell me on you. Know you're claimed. Will it hurt? Yes, for a moment, but vampire venom dulls pain, turns it into euphoria. Heat crept up Leanne's neck. After the bite, Kine continued, you'll sense my location, my emotional state. I'll sense you. Other vampires cannot feed from you without my permission. We're allies, Leanne, not master and servant. She studied him. Everything about Kine was different from Lawson, sharp where Lawson was soft, honest where Lawson made promises. When? She asked. Now, the Coven gathers tomorrow night. Leanne's pulse quickened. Kine's eyes tracked the movement, dropping to her throat. You're afraid. Yes. Good, fear keeps you alert. He moved behind her, hands settling on her shoulders. But you're also angry. Use that. Let them see they didn't break you. They forged you into something stronger. Leanne tilted her head, exposing her throat. She felt his breath against her skin, cold. Then his mouth pressed where neck met shoulder. The bite was sudden. 2 points of fire. Leanne gasped. Pain bloomed white-hot, but then warmth, spreading like liquid honey. The pain transformed into something heavy and sweet, euphoria. Her knees went weak. Kyne's arm wrapped around her waist as he drank, controlled, measured. He pulled back. Leanne sagged against him, mind hazy. The euphoria faded, leaving a dull throb and something else, a warmth beneath her skin that wasn't hers, a presence at the edge of awareness. "I can feel you," she whispered. "The bond." Kyne steadied her. "By tomorrow, you'll know where I am at all times, and they'll know you're mine." Mine. The word felt like armor. She slept in his guest room, heartbeat slow and steady through the walls. Kyne stood in his study, staring at maps drawn centuries ago, charts of bloodlines and alliances. Most vampires on these maps were dust now, but Cordell remained. 900 years. 9 centuries forbidden from entering Coven territories, forbidden from purpose. The curse had been specific. Exiled by your own creations, you will walk eternity alone until you find one deemed unworthy by those who cast you out. He'd searched for decades, watched countless humans rejected by covens. None had been right, until tonight. Leanne Duncan had stood before an entire coven and told them they were wrong. Kyne had felt the curse recognize her, the bond snapping into place before he'd even bitten her. She was the one. But she didn't know the full truth yet. Claiming her hadn't just given him the right to return, it gave him the right to challenge for progenitor, founding vampire ultimate authority. Cordell had held that title for 8 centuries, using Kyne's legacy while rewriting laws to suit his cruelty. Tomorrow night, Kyne would take it back, and Leanne would stand beside him when he did. He moved to the window. Across the city, the Coven was celebrating. Lawson and his pure-blood bond, Cordell's reign. They had no idea what was coming. Kyne's reflection stared back, amber eyes that had seen empires fall. For the first time in 900 years, he wasn't alone. He would protect her, make sure when the Coven acknowledged her worth, she'd be his equal, not his claimed human, his queen. Leanne woke to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows. The rejection, Kyne, the claiming bite, her hand flew to her throat. The punctures were still there, tender. But in the mirror she saw something strange. The bite marks glowed faintly. Gold, a knock sounded. "Come in." Kyne entered with coffee, toast, fruit. He set the tray down and stepped back. "You slept 12 hours. Late afternoon, the Coven gathering was tonight. "The bond," Kyne said. "I can sense your preferences now, small things." Leanne sipped her coffee, strong, black, exactly how she liked it. "The marks on my throat are glowing." Ancient vampire blood carries power. The older the vampire, the more potent the mark. Kyne moved to the window. "Mine will be visible to any vampire who looks. They'll know exactly who claimed you." "Will they be afraid?" Kyne turned, predatory smile forming, terrified. He sat across from her. This close, she saw details missed last night. The silver in his hair wasn't grey, it was metallic, catching light. His bronze undertone beneath marble pallor, evidence of sun-darkened skin from over 2,000 years ago. "Tonight," Kyne said, "we attend the Coven assembly. Lawson will present Caitlin, and we make our entrance." "What do I do?" "Stand beside me. Let them see the mark. When Cordell challenges us, and he will, let me handle it." His amber eyes held hers. "But if he questions your worth, don't stay silent. Remind them you're not the same human who left that hall." Leanne's heart raced. What if they don't accept the bond? They can't. I created the laws governing claims. No loophole exists. If they reject you, they reject the foundation of every bond in that coven, including Lawson's connection to Caitlin. Leanne smiled despite her nerves. "You really hate him, Cordell." "I hate what he turned my coven into." Kyne's jaw tightened. "I built it to protect vampires and humans, created laws to prevent senseless killing. Cordell twisted it into hierarchy based on bloodlines and cruelty." He stood, moved to the window. "There's something you should know. Tonight, I won't just claim my right to return." He paused. "I'm challenging Cordell for the position of progenitor." Leanne's cup froze. You're going to fight him. If necessary. But I'm hoping he'll step down when he sees I've fulfilled the curse. And if he doesn't? Kyne's smile was sharp as broken glass. Then I'll remind him why they called me the first of our kind. The Coven Hall looked different at night. Leanne had seen it once before, yesterday in the moment of her rejection. But tonight, arriving with Kyne at her side, the marble columns seemed taller, the shadows deeper, the candlelight casting everything in shades of gold and blood red. Vampires filled the chamber, dozens of them, all dressed in their house colors. Silks and velvets worth more than most humans earned in a lifetime. They stood in clusters, talking in low voices that carried the weight of centuries. Kyne's hand rested at the small of Leanne's back. Light touch, but grounding. Breathe, he murmured. They can smell fear. Leanne inhaled slowly. She wore a dress Kyne had provided, midnight blue silk that made her skin glow warm against the fabric. Simple, elegant. Nothing like the extravagant gowns the vampire women wore, but at her throat the bite marks gleamed gold. Every vampire who glanced her way did a double take. Their eyes widened, nostrils flared. Several took involuntary steps backward. Ancient blood, they could smell it on her. Stay close, Kyne said quietly. Cordell will be watching. They moved through the crowd. Vampires parted before them like water. Some bowed their heads slightly, instinct perhaps, recognizing something older and more dangerous than themselves. Others stared with naked hostility. Near the center of the hall, Leanne spotted Lawson. He stood with Caitlin, both of them dressed in matching silver. The pure-blood vampire had her hand on his arm, possessive, but Lawson's attention wasn't on his new bondmate. He was staring at Leanne, more specifically at her throat, at the glowing marks that branded her as claimed. His face went pale, paler than usual, which was saying something for a vampire. Caitlin followed his gaze, her perfect features twisted with fury. "That's impossible," she hissed, loud enough for nearby vampires to hear. "No vampire would claim her. She's worthless." Kyne stopped walking. The temperature in the hall seemed to drop 10 degrees. "Say that again," he said softly. Caitlin's confidence faltered. Up close, with Kyne's full attention on her, she seemed to realize what she was facing. Something very old, very angry. I only meant. You meant to insult my claimed." Kyne's voice stayed level, but something dangerous flickered in his amber eyes. "In doing so, you insult me. Would you like to continue?" Caitlin's mouth opened, closed. She looked to Lawson for support. Lawson was staring at Kyne now, recognition dawning in his blue eyes. "You're him," Lawson whispered. "The Exile, the founder." The nearby vampires went silent. The word founder rippled through the crowd like electricity. Kyne smiled. "I am, and this is Leanne, my claimed, the one your coven deemed unworthy yesterday." His gaze swept the gathering crowd. "I've returned to collect what belongs to me." Murmurs erupted. Vampires pressed closer, trying to hear, trying to see. And then the crowd parted. Cordell appeared, flanked by 2 massive vampires, enforcers probably. The Coven master wore black robes trimmed in crimson. His black eyes fixed on Kyne with something between fury and fear. "Kyne," Cordell's voice carried through the hall, "you were exiled. You have no right to be here." On the contrary, Kyne's hand moved from Leanne's back to her shoulder, claiming touch. "I have every right. Your coven rejected this woman as unworthy. By the laws I created, laws you still follow, she falls under my protection. And where she goes, I am permitted to follow." Cordell's jaw tightened. "That law applies to vampires claiming humans within Coven territory. You are not part of this coven." "I founded this coven." Kyne's voice hardened. "My blood runs through every vampire in this hall, directly or by proxy. You may have exiled me, Cordell, but you cannot unmake what I am. The progenitor. First of our kind in this region." The title hung in the air, progenitor. Several older vampires, the ones who'd been turned centuries ago, shifted uncomfortably. Leanne saw one woman, silver-haired and regal, watching Kine with something like hope in her ancient eyes. Cordell stepped closer. The curse is broken. Kine's smile was sharp. I found the one deemed unworthy by my own creations. She stands beside me now, marked with my blood. The conditions are met, Cordell. I've returned, and I'm challenging you for leadership of this coven. The hall erupted. Vampires shouted, some in support, others in outrage. The noise was deafening. Cordell raised one hand. Silence fell instantly. You think you can return after 900 years and simply take what's mine? Cordell's black eyes blazed. I've ruled this coven for 8 centuries. I've built alliances, established territories, made us powerful. You've made yourselves parasites. Kine's voice cut through the hall like a blade. I created laws to protect both vampires and humans, to encourage coexistence. You twisted those laws into justification for treating mortals as cattle. He gestured to Leanne. This woman is brilliant, capable, worthy of respect, but you rejected her because she wasn't born vampire, because she lacked pure blood. His contempt for the phrase was palpable. You've forgotten what we are, Cordell. We were all human once, every single one of us. Murmurs of agreement rippled through some of the crowd. Cordell's face flushed with anger. And you think bringing one human pet into this hall changes anything? The insult landed like a slap. Leanne felt Kine tense beside her. His fingers tightened on her shoulder, not painful but warning. Don't react, let me handle this. But Leanne had spent 3 years being dismissed, being called inadequate, being treated as less than. She stepped forward. I'm not his pet, she said clearly. I'm his claimed. And I'm standing here because your laws, the ones Kine created, say I have the right to be here. Cordell's gaze dropped to her like a weight. You're human. You have no voice in vampire affairs. She is mine. Kine moved to stand beside Leanne. And if you want to challenge my claim, Cordell, then challenge me, but do it properly. Invoke the old laws. Call for a trial by authority. The hall went silent again. Trial by authority. Leanne didn't know what that meant, but from the expressions around her, it was significant. The silver-haired vampire from earlier stepped forward. Her voice was steady, ancient. Master Cordell, if the founder has indeed returned and fulfilled the conditions of his exile, then by our own laws, laws unchanged since Kine established them, he has the right to challenge for progenitor status. Cordell rounded on her. Sadie, you would support this. Sadie met his gaze without flinching. I was there when you exiled him, Cordell. I voted against it. Kine created this coven to be better than the brutal covens of old. You've spent 8 centuries undoing his work. Other voices rose in agreement. Not all. Many vampires looked uncertain, loyal to Cordell or simply afraid of change. But enough agreed that Cordell's certainty wavered. Fine, Cordell said finally. His voice was cold. If you want a trial by authority, Kine, you'll have it. 3 nights from now. We'll see if your ancient blood still holds power or if 9 centuries of exile have made you weak. Kine's smile was dangerous. 3 nights, I'll be ready. Cordell turned and strode from the hall, his enforcers following. The crowd erupted again, this time in excitement. Vampires clustered together, placing bets, speculating. Leanne's legs felt weak. She just watched Kine challenge a vampire who'd ruled for 800 years. Kine's hand found hers, squeezed gently. You did well, he murmured. Speaking up when he called you a pet, that took courage. Or stupidity. Often the same thing. His amber eyes held warmth now. Come, we should leave before someone decides to test your claim. They moved toward the exit, but before they reached the doors, a voice called out. Leanne, wait. Leanne turned slowly. Her ex-lover stood a few feet away, Caitlin conspicuously absent. What do you want, Lawson? Leanne's voice was ice. He looked at the marks on her throat, at Kyne standing protectively beside her. "I made a mistake," Lawson said quietly. "Yesterday, choosing Caitlin, I should have." "You should have what?" Leanne stepped closer. "Defended me, refused the pure blood bond, remembered the 3 years I spent loving you." Lawson flinched. "You made your choice," Leanne continued. "You traded me for status, and now you're realizing what you lost." She smiled bitterly. "But I'm not interested in your regrets, Lawson. I've moved on." She turned back to Kyne, took his offered arm. They walked out together, leaving Lawson standing alone in the hall. They rode home in silence. Kyne could feel Leanne's emotions through the bond, satisfaction, anger, and underneath it all fear. She'd been brave tonight, braver than most vampires twice her age. But she was still human, still fragile, still his. That last thought sent a possessive surge through him that he immediately suppressed. This was an alliance, a strategic partnership. He couldn't afford to let it become something else. But the bond made it difficult. Every heartbeat, every breath, every flutter of fear or spike of adrenaline, he felt it all. And his vampire nature responded, wanting to protect, to claim, to keep her safe from anything that might threaten her, including his own hunger. The manor appeared ahead. Kyne helped Leanne from the carriage, noted how her hand trembled slightly in his. "You should eat something," he said, "and sleep. The next 3 days will be difficult." "What happens in a trial by authority?" Leanne asked as they entered the manor. Kyne moved to the kitchen, pulled out bread, cheese, fruit. "It's an old vampire tradition. When 2 vampires claim the same position of power, they compete through demonstrations of strength, strategy, and control." "So you fight?" "Possibly, but it's not just physical combat." Kyne set the food on the table. "There are 3 trials. Strength, which tests physical and supernatural power. Wisdom, which tests strategic thinking and knowledge of vampire lore. And control." He paused. "Control," Leanne prompted. "The ability to resist blood hunger." Kyne's voice was carefully neutral. A vampire who cannot control their thirst is considered dangerous, unfit to lead. Leanne's eyes widened. "They're going to test your control. How?" Kyne met her gaze. "By placing me in the presence of fresh human blood and seeing if I can resist feeding." The implication hung between them. "You mean me," Leanne said quietly. "They'll use me." "Probably." Kyne's jaw tightened. "Cordell will argue that my claim on you is proof I lack control, that I've bound myself to a human out of desperation rather than genuine authority." "Can you resist?" The question was direct, honest. Kyne appreciated that about her. No games, no manipulation. "I don't know," he admitted. "I haven't fed from a living human in over a century. I've been surviving on animal blood, stored reserves. But you," he trailed off. "But I'm bonded to you," Leanne finished. "My blood would be stronger, more tempting." "Yes." Leanne was quiet for a moment. Then she sat at the table, started eating mechanically. "We should practice," she said finally. Kyne blinked. "Practice?" "Your control. If they're going to test it in 3 days, you need to know your limits." She looked up at him. "Use me. Practice resisting." "Leanne, that's dangerous." "So is going into that trial unprepared." Her hazel green eyes were steady. "I trust you, Kyne. You claimed me to protect me, not to drain me. So let's make sure you can actually do that when Cordell is watching." Kyne stared at her. 900 years of isolation, and this human he'd known for less than 2 days was offering herself as training. The bond thrummed between them. He could feel her determination, her strange, stubborn trust. "Tomorrow night," he said finally. "After you've rested, we'll practice." Leanne nodded and continued eating. Kyne turned away before she could see the hunger already building in his eyes. The next evening, Leanne found Kyne in his study. He stood by the window, motionless. Vampires could hold perfectly still in a way humans couldn't. No breathing, no fidgeting, like statues. "I'm ready," she said. Kine turned. His amber eyes glowed brighter than usual. "Hungry. You don't have to do this." "I know." Leanne moved closer. "But we need to know. Better to find out now than in front of Cordell." Kine nodded slowly. "The bond makes your blood more potent to me. I'll be able to smell it, hear your heartbeat more clearly. Every instinct will tell me to feed." "And you'll resist." "I'll try." That honesty again, no false promises. Leanne sat in the chair by his desk. "What do I need to do?" "Bare your wrist, or your throat if you're comfortable." Kine stayed by the window. "I'll approach slowly. Tell me immediately if you feel unsafe." Leanne hesitated, then unbuttoned the cuff of her sleeve. She rolled it back, exposing her inner wrist. The skin there was pale, vulnerable, blue veins visible beneath. Kine's pupils dilated. He moved toward her with predator grace, each step deliberate, controlled. 5 feet away, 4, 3. His breathing, unnecessary for vampires but habitual, had stopped entirely. 2 feet. Leanne could see his fangs now, extended slightly, serrated edges gleaming. 1 foot. Kine's hand reached out. His fingers wrapped around her wrist, cold, gentle, trembling slightly. He lifted her arm, brought it closer to his face. His nostrils flared. A low sound escaped his throat. Not quite a growl, something deeper. "Your blood," he whispered. "I can smell it, warm, living, mixed with my claim." His eyes met hers. "It's intoxicating." Leanne's heart raced. She could feel the bond thrumming, feel Kine's hunger like a physical pressure. His mouth opened. Fangs grazed her skin, not piercing, just touching. The pressure increased. His grip on her wrist tightened. "Kine." He released her abruptly, stumbled backward until he hit the wall. "Enough." His voice was rough. "I can't, not yet. The control isn't there." Leanne rubbed her wrist. No marks, but she could still feel the phantom touch of his fangs. That was close. Too close. Kine's hands clenched into fists. "In 3 days, Cordell will push harder. He'll wound you deliberately, make you bleed. And I'll have to stand there and not react." A terrible idea was forming in Leanne's mind. "What if you did feed from me?" she said slowly. Kine's head snapped up. "No." "Listen." Leanne stood. "If you feed from me now, with consent, in a controlled environment, maybe it would take the edge off. Maybe you'd have better control in the trial. Or maybe I'd lose control completely and drain you." Kine's voice was harsh. "That's what happens when vampires feed from their bonded humans, Leanne. The blood is too rich, too perfect. We don't stop." "You stopped just now." "Barely." Leanne moved closer. "I trust you." "You shouldn't." "But I do." She was standing right in front of him now, close enough to see the war happening behind his amber eyes. Hunger versus control. Predator versus protector. "If you feed from me," she said quietly, "the bond will strengthen. You'll be able to sense me better during the trial. You'll know if I'm actually in danger versus Cordell just trying to provoke you." Kine stared at her. "You've thought this through." "I have. And if I can't stop." Leanne reached up, touched his face. His skin was cold marble, but underneath she felt tension, restraint. "Then you'll stop, because you're not the monster Cordell wants you to be." Something shifted in Kine's expression. The hunger was still there, but layered beneath it was something else. Gratitude, wonder. "You barely know me," he whispered. "I know enough." Kine closed his eyes. When he opened them again, the decision was made. "Turn around," he said quietly. "Expose your throat. If I'm going to do this, I'm doing it properly. No half measures." Leanne's pulse jumped. She turned, swept her curly hair over one shoulder. Kine stepped behind her. His hands settled on her shoulders. "This will hurt," he warned, "and the euphoria will be stronger this time. You might lose consciousness." "I trust you." His breath ghosted across her throat. Cold. "You're saving me," Kine whispered against her skin, "in more ways than you know." Then he bit, pain sharp and immediate. Leanne gasped, but the euphoria came faster this time. Warm honey flooding her veins, washing away everything except sensation. Kine's mouth on her throat, his arms wrapping around her waist, holding her upright, the pull of blood leaving her body. The bond exploded. Suddenly, Leanne could feel everything. Kine's ancient loneliness, his 900 years of isolation, his desperate hope that maybe, finally, he'd found someone who saw him as more than a monster or a tool, and underneath it all, his control. Iron will forcing him to stop before he took too much. He pulled back. Leanne sagged. Kine caught her, lifted her easily. The room spun. "Sleep," he murmured. "The bond is complete now. When you wake, we'll be stronger, together." Leanne's eyes closed. Her last thought before darkness took her was that she'd made the right choice. Trusting a monster was dangerous, but becoming his equal, that was worth the risk. If you want to see what happens when Leanne faces the Coven again, when Cordell tests Kine's control and the truth about ancient vampire power comes out, make sure you're subscribed. This story is just getting started. Leanne woke to darkness. Not the soft darkness of evening, but the deep black of middle night. For a moment, panic seized her. Where was she? What had happened? Then the bond flared to life. Kine was nearby, downstairs, pacing. She could feel his emotions more clearly now, worry, restraint, and underneath it all, satisfaction. The feeding had worked. He felt stronger. Leanne sat up carefully. Her throat throbbed, but not painfully, more like a deep ache, the kind that came after hard exercise. She touched the bite marks. They were warmer than before, pulsing faintly with each heartbeat. She rose, pulled on a robe, and made her way downstairs. Kine stood in the study, exactly where the bond told her he'd be. He turned as she entered. "You should still be sleeping." "I can feel you now," Leanne said. "Really feel you. Your location, your mood. It's like you're a compass pulling at my chest." Kine's expression softened. "The bond is fully formed, feeding from you completed it." He moved closer, studying her face. "How do you feel? Weak? Dizzy?" "Surprisingly fine." Leanne sat in the chair by his desk. "How much did you take?" "Enough to strengthen the bond, not enough to endanger you." Kine's jaw tightened. "But it was close, Leanne, closer than I wanted. Your blood is." He trailed off. "Intoxicating. You said that before." "It's more than that now." Kine turned away. "Bonded blood is addictive to vampires. The more I feed from you, the more I'll crave you specifically. No other blood will satisfy." Leanne's chest tightened. "Is that a problem?" "It could be." Kine's hands clenched. "If I become dependent on you, if I can't control the hunger, then Cordell wins. He'll prove I'm unfit to lead." "Then we practice more," Leanne said firmly. 2 more days until the trial. We use that time." Kine looked at her, something like admiration in his amber eyes. "You're remarkably calm about all this." "I'm terrified," Leanne admitted. "But being terrified never stopped anything bad from happening. Action does." A faint smile crossed Kine's face. "You sound like a general I knew, 1,500 years ago. She used to say fear was just information. Use it or ignore it, but don't let it paralyze you." 1,500 years. Leanne couldn't imagine living that long, watching civilizations rise and fall. Everyone you loved turning to dust while you remained. "Is it lonely?" she asked quietly. "Immortality." Kine was silent for a long moment. "Yes," he said finally. "Humans think vampires are blessed. Eternal life, eternal youth power, but we lose everyone. Every human we care about ages and dies while we stay frozen. After a few centuries, most vampires stop forming attachments. It hurts less." Is that why you were alone for 900 years? I was alone because I was exiled. Kine's voice hardened. But even before that, I was lonely. When you create something, a coven, a society, laws meant to protect people, and then watch it be twisted into something cruel, it hollows you out. He moved to the window, looked out at the dark garden. I wanted to build something better than what came before, he continued. The old covens were brutal. Vampires slaughtering humans indiscriminately, turning people against their will, treating mortals as expendable. I thought if I established rules, created structure, we could coexist. And Cordell destroyed that. Slowly, over centuries. He didn't overturn my laws all at once, just reinterpreted them, found loopholes. By the time I realized what was happening, half the coven supported him. They liked the freedom to hunt without restraint. Kine's reflection in the window looked ancient, tired. When they exiled me, I didn't fight. I could have killed them all, probably, but that would have made me the tyrant Cordell claimed I was. His voice dropped. So I left. And I've been waiting for 900 years for the chance to return and make it right. Leanne stood, moved to stand beside him. Through the bond, she felt the weight of his loneliness, 9 centuries of it pressing down like stone. You're not alone anymore, she said quietly. Kine looked at her. No, I'm not. The moments stretched between them. Something shifted, no longer just an alliance of convenience, but something deeper, partnership, maybe even friendship. Kine cleared his throat. We should prepare for tomorrow. Cordell will have spies watching us. He'll try to find weaknesses before the trial. Then let's not give him any. The next 2 days passed in a blur of preparation. Kine drilled Leanne on vampire politics, which houses supported Cordell, which were neutral, which might be swayed. He taught her the proper forms of address, the ancient protocols that governed trials by authority, and they practiced control. Each evening, Kine would resist feeding. Leanne would offer her wrist, her throat. He would approach, inhale her scent, let his fangs graze skin, and then he would pull back. Each time it got slightly easier. The hunger was still there. Leanne could feel it through the bond, a constant ache, but Kine's control strengthened. On the morning of the trial, Sadie visited. The silver-haired vampire arrived just after dawn when Kine was resting. Vampires didn't need to sleep, but the old ones often did anyway. Habit from mortal life, Leanne answered the door. Miss Duncan, Sadie's ancient eyes studied her. May I come in? Leanne hesitated. Vampire invitation rules. She'd learned about them. A vampire couldn't enter a private residence without permission. Come in, Leanne said finally. Sadie stepped across the threshold gracefully. She wore simple grey robes, no house colors. Her silver hair was bound in a braid that fell to her waist. I won't take much of your time, Sadie said. I came to give you information. About the trial. About what you're walking into. Sadie moved to the sitting room, sat without being asked. Ancient vampires didn't stand on ceremony. Leanne sat across from her. I was there when Kine founded this coven, Sadie began. 2,347 years ago. I was one of the first 12 he turned. I watched him build our laws, our society. I voted against his exile. Why didn't you stop it? I tried. Sadness flickered across Sadie's face. But I was outnumbered. Cordell had been planning the coup for decades. He had supporters, allies, and Kine. She paused. Kine didn't fight back. He believed in his own laws too much. Believed that if the coven voted for new leadership, he should honor that decision. Even though it was based on lies. Even then, Sadie's gaze was steady. That's who Kine is, Leanne. He believes in justice, in rules, in doing things properly, even when it costs him everything. Leanne thought of Kine's careful control. His refusal to simply slaughter Cordell and take back power by force. Why are you telling me this? She asked. Because tonight, Cordell will try to break him, not through the trials of strength or wisdom. Kine will win those easily, but through control. Sadie leaned forward. Cordell will hurt you, Leanne. He'll make you bleed, make you scream, and force Kyne to watch. If Kyne loses control and attacks, Cordell wins. If Kyne stays controlled but you die, Cordell wins. Either way, Kyne loses. Cold dread settled in Leanne's stomach. What do I do? You have a choice. Sadie's voice was gentle. You can walk away now. Leave the manor, leave the city. Kyne would understand. He'd face the trial alone and probably lose, but you'd be safe. No. Or you accept what you already know in your heart. Sadie's ancient eyes held Leanne's. You're not just Kyne's claimed human, you're his equal, his partner. And if you want to stand beside him tonight, you need to become what he is. The words hung in the air. You mean turn, Leanne whispered. Yes, Sadie nodded. If you're vampire, Cordell can't use you against Kyne. You'll be protected by the same laws as any other Coven member. And more than that, as Kyne's bonded mate, you'd have authority, power, a voice in Coven politics. Leanne's mind raced. Kyne hasn't offered to turn me. Because he's honorable, he won't pressure you into immortality. Sadie smiled slightly. But I'm not Kyne, and I'm telling you the truth. If you walk into that trial as a human, you'll be used as a weapon against him. If you walk in as a vampire, you'll be his strength. Turning takes 3 nights, doesn't it? The trial is tonight. Normally, yes, but Kyne's blood is ancient, pure. With his blood, the transformation happens faster. You could be turned and risen before sunset. Leanne stood, paced to the window. Outside, the sun was climbing higher. In a few hours, Kyne would wake. She could feel him through the bond even now, resting in his chambers. Peaceful for once, not weighed down by 9 centuries of loneliness. He'd given her a choice from the beginning. Alliance, not ownership. Partnership, not servitude. But choices weren't always between good and bad. Sometimes they were between safety and risk. Between walking away and standing firm. Leanne had spent 3 years with Lawson, being dismissed and undervalued. She'd been called unworthy by an entire coven. And then Kyne had appeared, ancient and powerful and offering her not protection but partnership. She'd be lying if she said she hadn't thought about turning, about immortality, about standing beside Kyne not as his fragile human claim, but as his equal in truth. If I choose this, Leanne said slowly, what happens? Kyne bites you, drains you nearly to death. You drink his blood in return, your heart stops, you die. Sadie's voice was matter of fact. For vampires as old as Kyne, you'll be dead for perhaps 6 hours. Then you wake, hungry, powerful, vampire. And if something goes wrong, you stay dead. Sadie stood. That's the risk, Leanne. Turning doesn't always work. Some humans die and simply don't rise. But with Kyne's blood, with the bond already formed, your chances are better than most. Leanne closed her eyes, felt the bond connecting her to Kyne, felt his steady presence, his careful control, his hope that maybe this time things would work out. She opened her eyes. I want to do it. Sadie smiled. I'll wake him. Kyne woke to Sadie's knock. He opened the door to find the ancient vampire and Leanne standing together. Leanne's expression was determined. She wants to turn, Sadie said simply, before the trial. Kyne's chest tightened. Leanne. I've made my decision. Leanne stepped forward. Sadie explained what Cordell will do tonight, how he'll use me against you. I won't let that happen. Turning is permanent, Kyne said carefully. You'll be vampire forever. You'll outlive everyone you know. You'll have to feed on blood to survive. There's no going back. I know. You'll lose some of your humanity. The sun will burn you. You'll be bound to darkness. I know, Leanne repeated. But I'll also be your equal. I'll have power, a voice, and Cordell won't be able to hurt me. Kyne looked at Sadie. The older vampire's expression was neutral, but there was approval in her ancient eyes. You put her up to this, he said. I gave her information. She made her own choice. Sadie moved toward the door. I'll leave you to discuss it." She left, closing the door softly behind her. Kine turned back to Leanne. "You don't have to do this for me." "I'm not." Leanne's hazel green eyes were steady. "I'm doing this for me. I'm tired of being powerless, Kine, tired of being dismissed. For 3 years, Lawson treated me like I was convenient but ultimately disposable. The Coven called me unworthy. And tonight, Cordell is planning to use me as bait." She stepped closer. "I want power, real power, not just your protection but my own strength. And yes, I want to stand beside you as an equal, not your claimed human, but your bonded mate." Something cracked in Kine's chest. 900 years of loneliness, and this human wanted to become immortal for him, with him. "It will hurt," he warned. "Dying hurts, and waking as vampire is, disorienting. You'll be hungry, desperate for blood. I'll have to help you through the first feeding." "I trust you." Those 3 words. She'd said them before, and each time they hit him like a physical blow. "If I do this," Kine said quietly, "I do it properly, full bonding, blood exchange. When you rise, you'll be mine and I'll be yours, equal partners in every way." "Yes." Kine closed his eyes, opened them. "Then we do it now. We have 8 hours until sunset. That should be enough." He led her to his chambers. The room was sparse. A bed he never used, a wardrobe, a single window shuttered against daylight. Leanne sat on the bed. She wasn't trembling, wasn't afraid, just determined. Kine knelt before her. "Last chance to change your mind." "I won't." He took her hands in his. "Then I claim you, not just as my protected human, but as my mate, my equal, my partner in eternity." "I accept." Kine stood, gently guided her to lie back. He stretched out beside her, propped on one elbow. "I'm going to bite your throat," he said softly. "Take most of your blood. You'll feel yourself dying. Don't fight it. Let it happen." Leanne nodded. Kine leaned down, pressed his mouth to her throat. He could feel her pulse, strong and steady. Smell her blood, rich with his claim. For a moment he hesitated. This would change everything. She would be his responsibility for eternity, his mate, his equal. No more loneliness, no more walking through centuries alone. He bit down. Leanne gasped. Her hands gripped his shoulders as he drank. This time he didn't stop after a few mouthfuls. He drank deeply, feeling her heartbeat slow, feeling her grip weaken. When her heart was barely fluttering, he pulled back. Leanne's eyes were glassy, dying. Kine bit his own wrist, tearing the flesh. Blood welled up, dark and ancient. "Drink," he commanded, pressing his wrist to her mouth. Leanne's survival instincts kicked in. She latched onto his wrist, drank desperately. His blood flowed into her, ancient, powerful, transformative. After a minute, Kine pulled his wrist away. The wound closed instantly. Leanne's eyes fluttered closed. Her breathing stopped. Her heart beat once, twice, then nothing. Silence. Kine gathered her close, held her cooling body against his chest. "Sleep," he whispered, "and when you wake, we'll face them together." He'd like that for hours, motionless, holding her, waiting for her to die completely. And then when the sun finally started to set, for her to rise again. Dying was cold. Leanne felt her heartbeat slow, felt her lungs stop pulling air, felt her body shut down piece by piece. And then nothing, darkness, complete and absolute. She floated in it. No pain, no fear, just absence. Time lost meaning. Seconds or hours or days could have passed. And then burning. Heat exploded through her chest. Her veins caught fire. Every cell in her body screamed as it transformed. Her heart stuttered. Beat once, twice, stopped. Beat again, stronger, faster, different. Her lungs expanded, pulling in air she didn't need. Her senses sharpened. She could hear everything, mice in the walls, wind through trees outside, Kine's unnecessary breathing beside her. And the smell, blood, everywhere, in the walls, in the air, pumping through living bodies somewhere in the distance. Hunger crashed through her like a tidal wave. Leanne's eyes snapped open. The room was dark, but she could see perfectly, every detail sharp and clear. Kine's face hovered above hers, amber eyes glowing. "Welcome back," he said softly. Leanne tried to speak. Her throat was on fire. Her fangs, she had fangs now, felt too large for her mouth. "Hungry," she managed. "I know." Kine helped her sit up. "Your first feeding has to be blood. I have stores ready." He moved to a cabinet, pulled out a glass bottle, dark red liquid inside. Human blood. The hunger roared. Kine poured it into a glass, brought it to her. Leanne grabbed it, drank. The blood hit her system like electricity. Power flooded through her, strength, speed, everything sharpened even further. She drained the glass, then another, and another. Finally, the hunger dulled to a manageable ache. Leanne looked at her hands, the same hands she'd always had, but stronger now, paler. She touched her face, still her features, but sharper, more angular. "Mirror," she whispered. Kine guided her to the standing mirror in the corner. Leanne stared at her reflection. Vampire. Her skin was pale bronze now, beautiful but cold. Her hazel-green eyes had shifted, still green, but with a golden ring around the iris. Predator eyes. Her fangs were visible when she opened her mouth. Serrated, sharp, she looked dangerous. She looked powerful. She looked worthy. "How do you feel?" Kine asked. Leanne met his eyes in the mirror. Strong, hungry, alive in a way I've never been. She turned to face him. "What time is it?" "Sunset just finished. The trial begins in 2 hours." Leanne smiled. Her fangs gleamed. "Then let's get ready to make them kneel." The Coven hall had never looked more beautiful or more hostile. Leanne walked through the massive doors with Kine at her side, and every vampire in the chamber turned to stare. She felt their eyes like physical pressure, predators assessing a newcomer, trying to determine where she fit in the hierarchy. Then they smelled her. Newborn vampire, ancient blood, Kine's blood. The whispers started immediately. Impossible. He turned her. She's vampire now. Leanne kept her head high. She wore midnight blue again, the same dress from 3 nights ago, but now it fit differently, moved differently against her transformed body. Every sense was heightened. She could hear individual heartbeats among the human servants at the edges of the hall. Could smell the different blood types, the fear, the excitement. Could feel the power radiating from the older vampires. But none of them felt like Kine. His presence beside her was a furnace, ancient, vast, controlled. Cordell stood at the center of the hall on a raised platform. His black eyes narrowed as he saw them approach. "Kine." His voice carried through the chamber. "You've violated protocol. Turning a human without Coven approval is forbidden." "I created that law," Kine said mildly. "And if you read it carefully, you'll find it applies to unwilling transformations." Leanne chose to turn, of her own free will, with full knowledge of the consequences. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Cordell's jaw tightened. Convenient timing, right before the trial. "Strategic timing," Kine corrected. He gestured to Leanne. "May I present Leanne, my bonded mate, vampire of my line, co-claimant to the title of progenitor." The hall erupted. Vampires shouted, some in outrage, others in approval. Cordell's supporters looked furious, but Sadie and several other ancient vampires smiled. "Order." Cordell slammed his hand against the stone platform. Silence fell. "She may be vampire now, but she's newborn, untested. She has no authority here." "She has my authority," Kine said quietly, "which, if I win tonight's trial, makes her authority absolute." Cordell's face flushed with anger. "Then let's begin, and we'll see if your precious mate is worth the disruption she's caused." He gestured to the assembled vampires. The trial by authority has 3 components: strength, wisdom, control. Kine must demonstrate superiority in all 3 to reclaim the title of progenitor. The crowd shifted, forming a wide circle around the platform. "First trial," Cordell announced. "Strength." 2 massive vampires stepped forward, Cordell's enforcers, each easily 7 feet tall, muscles bulging beneath their formal wear. Defeat my champions, Cordell said. Both of them, without killing, prove your physical dominance. Kine removed his coat, handed it to Leanne. Underneath, he wore a simple black shirt. No armor, no weapons. He stepped onto the platform. The first enforcer lunged immediately. Superhuman speed, fist aimed at Kine's face. Kine caught the fist mid-swing. The enforcer's eyes widened. He tried to pull back, couldn't. Kine twisted, used the enforcer's momentum against him. The massive vampire flipped through the air, slammed into the stone platform hard enough to crack it. The second enforcer attacked from behind. Kine spun, caught him by the throat, lifted him off his feet with one hand. "Yield," Kine said calmly. The enforcer struggled, couldn't break the grip. Finally nodded. Kine released him. Both enforcers backed away, defeated. The entire exchange had taken less than 30 seconds. The crowd was silent. Cordell's face had gone pale. Second trial. Wisdom. An ancient vampire stepped forward, older even than Sadie, with skin like parchment and eyes that had seen millennia. "Present a case," the elder said to Kine. "Argue why your laws are superior to Cordell's modifications. Convince the Coven that your leadership would serve them better." Kine turned to face the assembled vampires. 876 years ago, he began, I was exiled for trying to prevent cruelty. Cordell claimed I was tyrannical, that my laws restricting how we treated humans were oppressive. He moved through the crowd. Vampires stepped back instinctively. In the century since, how many humans has this coven killed unnecessarily? How many innocents drained and discarded? How many times has reckless feeding drawn vampire hunters to our doors? Several vampires shifted uncomfortably. Under my laws, Kine continued, we fed carefully, took only what we needed, used willing donors or stored blood. We were hidden. Safe, under Cordell's leadership, you've become sloppy, entitled, dangerous. He stopped at the center of the circle. Cordell gave you freedom. I offer you survival. The choice is yours. The silence that followed was heavy. Finally, the ancient elder nodded. Your argument is sound. Second trial passed. Cordell's hands clenched into fists. Third trial, control. This was it, the test Leanne had been dreading. Cordell gestured, and two vampires dragged a human woman forward. She was terrified, struggling against their grip. Fresh blood, Cordell announced. Scared blood, the most tempting kind. He smiled cruelly. Resist feeding. Prove you have the control necessary to lead. Kine's jaw tightened. Through the bond, Leanne felt his hunger spike. The woman's fear made her blood pump faster, made the scent stronger. Kine approached slowly. The woman whimpered. He stopped 3 feet away. His fangs extended involuntarily. His pupils dilated. Leanne could feel him fighting, every instinct screaming at him to feed, to take what was offered. Seconds ticked by. Kine's hands trembled, but he didn't move. 1 minute, 2. Cordell's smile faded. Bring the blade. A vampire appeared with a silver knife. He sliced the woman's arm. Blood welled up, the scent filling the hall. Kine's control fractured. He stumbled forward 1 step, stopped, held. Enough, the ancient elder said finally. He's demonstrated control. Third trial passed. Cordell's face twisted with rage. No, the trial isn't complete until... Until what? Sadie stepped forward. Until you torture that poor woman further. Kine has proven his point. He resisted when most of us would have fed. Other vampires murmured agreement. Cordell rounded on Leanne. Fine, but there's one more test. If Kine is to be progenitor, his mate must also demonstrate worthiness. Leanne's heart, unnecessary now, but still beating out of habit, stuttered. She's newborn, Cordell continued. Fresh turned. If she can resist the same temptation, then perhaps she deserves to stand beside him. Kine moved immediately. No, she's less than 12 hours old. Her control isn't. Then she's unworthy. Cordel's smile was vicious. "And by your own laws, Kine, a progenitor's mate must be worthy. If she fails, you both fail." Leanne felt the trap close. But she also felt something else. Hunger, yes. The woman's bleeding arm called to her newborn instincts, but underneath that, Kine's blood. Ancient and powerful and singing through her veins, she wasn't just any newborn, she was Kine's bonded mate, his equal, and she would not fail him. "I'll do it," Leanne said. Kine turned to her. "Leanne." "I can do this." She met his amber eyes. "Trust me." For a moment, Kine hesitated. Then he nodded. Leanne stepped forward. The human woman was bleeding steadily now. The scent hit Leanne like a physical blow. Every newly formed instinct screamed at her to feed, to drink, to satisfy the hunger clawing at her throat. She stopped 2 feet away. The hunger roared. Leanne closed her eyes, focused on the bond, on Kine's steady presence. On the control he'd shown for 900 years. She thought about being called unworthy, about Lawson's rejection, about every vampire in this hall who dismissed her as just human, just food. She opened her eyes. "No," she said clearly. The hunger didn't disappear, but she held it, controlled it. Cordel's expression went from smug to shocked. "Impossible. You're newborn. You can't." "I can." Leanne's voice was steady. "Because I'm not just newborn. I'm bonded to the most ancient vampire in this hall. His control is mine. His strength is mine." She turned to face the assembled coven. "You called me unworthy 3 days ago, dismissed me as lacking substance. But I'm standing here now as living proof that worth has nothing to do with bloodlines or how long you've been immortal." She felt power rising through her, not just her own, Kine's, flowing through the bond. "I earned my transformation," Leanne continued. "I chose it, and now I'm claiming my place here as Kine's bonded mate, as co-progenitor, as the vampire you all rejected but couldn't destroy." Silence filled the hall. Then Sadie stepped forward. She knelt. "I acknowledge Kine and Leanne as progenitors, founders returned. I pledge my loyalty." One by one, other vampires knelt, ancient ones first, then younger ones, even some of Cordel's supporters, seeing which way power was shifting. Within minutes, half the hall was kneeling. Cordell stood alone on his platform, face purple with rage. "This is treason," he snarled. "I am Coven Master. I rule here." "You ruled," Kine said quietly. He moved to stand beside Leanne. "But the Coven has spoken. They've chosen their progenitors." He looked at Cordell steadily. "You can accept this gracefully and retain your position as an elder, or you can challenge further and lose everything." Cordell's hands trembled. For a moment it looked like he might attack. Then his shoulders slumped. Slowly, grudgingly, he knelt. The remaining vampires followed. Every single vampire in the hall was on their knees. Leanne looked out at them, at Lawson, pale and horrified, at Caitlin, her perfect face twisted with disbelief, at Cordell, broken and defeated, at the coven that had rejected her, now kneeling. Kine took her hand. "Shall we address our coven, my queen?" Leanne smiled, fangs gleaming. "Let's." 3 months later, Leanne stood in the same hall, but everything was different. The laws had been rewritten. Humans were protected again, feeding restrictions reinstated. Vampire hunters had stopped targeting their territory because the Coven had stopped giving them reasons. Lawson had been stripped of his house title for incompetence. He worked in the archives now, cataloging records. Leanne saw him sometimes, looking diminished and lost. She felt nothing when she looked at him. No anger. No satisfaction, just nothing. Caitlin had left the Coven entirely, unwilling to serve under a woman she'd once called worthless. Cordell remained, but subdued, an elder voice, but no longer master. And Leanne. Leanne ruled, she and Kine together as equals. Making decisions, settling disputes, rebuilding what had been broken. She'd lost her mortality, lost the sun, lost the future she'd imagined with Lawson, but she'd gained something better. Power, purpose, partnership, and a vampire who looked at her like she was worth more than all the pure bloods in existence. Ready. Kine appeared beside her, hand extended. Tonight was another assembly, more politics, more coven management. Leanne took his hand. Always. They walked into the hall together, and every vampire they passed bowed, because the coven had rejected her as unworthy, but their exiled founder had claimed her. And now they all knelt. If you've made it this far, you know how this ends. The worthless become worthy. The rejected become royalty. And the vampires who said she'd never belong now serve her. That's the power of refusing to accept other people's judgments. If you want more stories where the underdog rises, where supernatural revenge tastes sweet, and where vampires learn that ancient power bows to earn strength, subscribe now. Hit that like button. And drop a comment telling me, would you choose immortality for revenge? Or is mortal life sweeter? This is Forbidden's Secret Love Chronicles. Welcome to the family.